We're on Daf Yud Gimel, and we start today from the two dots in the top of the Yoma. Rabbi Yehuda Oime Afi Shacheres Maskina Lay. Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah says, not only do you have to prepare a second Kohen Gadol to take over in case the first Kohen Gadol becomes possible, but you also have to prepare a new wife in case his first wife dies. Because it says, V'chipe Badei Vad Beisai. So Beisai means he has to have a wife. So the Rabbanon said to Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah, no, if you say that you have to prepare a new wife, so then maybe you should have to prepare a third wife in case the second wife that you prepared dies. So they disagree with this. Rabbanon are not concerned about the fact that maybe his wife will die, but b'negei to the Kohen Gadol, they themselves are also concerned that maybe the Kohen Gadol will become puzzle. So what's the difference? Why are they concerned about maybe the Kohen Gadol dying and not or becoming puzzle, and not concerned about the woman, his wife, dying? Answers the Gemara, Rabbanon will answer you, it's not the same thing. Tumeh shchiche, the concern about the Kohen becoming puzzle is that he would become Tameh, which is much more common. Misa, that his wife should die, loy shchiche, that's not common, so therefore we're not concerned about that. Then it said in the Mishnah, Amru loy, the Rabbanon told Rabbi Yehuda, Im kain, ein l'dav v'soif. If you're concerned about his wife dying, and you're putting there another wife, so then maybe the second one will die in ein l'dav v'soif. That was the taina that he had against Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. So the Gemara explains, now, what does Rabbi Yehuda say to this? Shapir, ka'amri lei, Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbanon have a very good argument against Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda will explain to you, very simple. That his wife, the first wife might die, that we're concerned about. The tarti loy chashina, that his second wife will die, that we're not concerned about. That Rabbi Yehuda says is not common, so you can't say ein l'dav v'saif. Yesh l'dav v'saif. The first one we're concerned that might die, but the second one we're not concerned. Because, true, but apparently two people to die at the same time is much more uncommon than one. One, Rabbi Yehuda holds, is still considered to be common enough that we make a takana for. That two will die at the same time, that's not common enough at all. The Rabbanon take an argument that they say, if you're saying that you're going to be concerned about something which is uncommon, which is that the wife might die, the trei chayshinon. Where am I? Did I skip a line? If you are concerned about the wife dying, so then you're going to be concerned even about two of them dying. In other words, what the Rabbanan are saying over here is that the truth is, even for one to die is totally uncommon. If you are concerned about such an uncommon event, so then you should be concerned about 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just as uncommon. It's the same thing. So that's really the basis, the point of the machlokes over here. Rabbi Yehuda holds one dying is enough common that we're concerned about that. More than that, it's uncommon. The Rabbanon put the line at another place. The Rabbanon say for a kohen to become puzzle, that's called common. But for the Isha to die is uncommon. So once that's uncommon, and you are still concerned about that, so then ein l'dav v'saif, you should be concerned about any uncommon event. But the question is, why doesn't the Rabbanon say the same thing to their own opinion? Again, going back to what the Rabbanon themselves said, that you appoint a second Kohen Gadol. You're afraid that the first Kohen Gadol will become puzzle. So therefore, why shouldn't you say the same thing, that maybe the second Kohen Gadol will become puzzle, and the third, and so on? So they themselves should be concerned about this. Amri lach Rabbanon, the Rabbanon say, Kohen Gadol zorisu. The reason they're not concerned about this is because the Kohen Gadol is very diligent and careful with his Aveda that he should not become puzzle. So the Gemara says, if that's the reason why you don't appoint a second Kohen Gadol, izorisu loma maskin and Kohen acher. So then why do you at all appoint a second Kohen Gadol? The answer is, Kivin dav dinan leit tzara. When you appoint a second Kohen Gadol, that has a double result. Not only is he going to be available in case the Kohen Gadol becomes puzzle, that actually itself is a preventive measure for the first Kohen not to become puzzle. Why? Because Avdina Leitzada, once you appoint a second Kohen Gadol, which is sort of a rival to the first Kohen Gadol, Kol Sheken de Mizdaris Tfei, the first Kohen Gadol is going to be even more careful because he wants to do the Aveda. He doesn't want the second Kohen Gadol to take over his Aveda. So that's also part of the point of appointing a second Kohen Gadol. It's Mizar as the first Kohen Gadol to be very, very careful. Frag the Gemara, going back to Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that you have to designate a second wife. Is it enough to designate a second wife? How does that help you? The point here is that he has to have a wife. Just by designating a second wife. So what happens if his first wife passes away in the middle of Yom Kippur or at any time, and now he has to have a second wife? She's not married to her yet. She's not married to her. Answers the Gemara, you're right, the Mekadosh law. He has to be Mekadosh or Kiddushin. So this is his wife. But the Gemara still says that's not enough. There's 2 stages in marriage, right? Kiddushin and then Nisuin, when he's fully married to her. But so Kiddushin is not enough because V'hakama the Leikonis law, as long as he does not fully marry her, Lav Beisai, it's still not Beisai. Still, they don't live together in the same house, so he's not married to her yet. And says the Gemara, you're right, the Konis law. We're not only designating a second wife, but he actually fully marries the second wife. Frek the Gemara, that's also not good. Imkain have you lay shnei batim, so now he's married to 2 wives. V'rachmana Omar, and the Torah says v'chipe badai uvad beisai, that he atones for himself and for 1 wife, not 2. V'loy bat shnei batim, not 2 wives. So what are we going to do over here? And it says the Gemara, the hoda megarish law. So he has to divorce her now. He has to divorce her in order to have 1 wife. Frek the Gemara, megarish law, the second one. He marries her and he divorces her. So the Gemara asks right away.
All this before the Aveda.
Yeah. Megarish law, if he's divorcing the second wife, so what did you gain? Hadra kushi leduchta. The question comes back that the second wife that you designated, he's not married to her anymore. So if his first wife dies, the second wife that he married, he divorced her. Yeah. So he didn't accomplish anything. So the Gemara explains, the megarish law al tanai. So the case of here is that he marries a second wife, and then he does divorce her as well, but he doesn't divorce her unconditionally. He divorces her with a certain t'nai that will work in a way that will always be assured to have 1 wife. Okay, so now get ready for a ride here in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to go through, I don't remember exactly how many, 6, 7, or 8 options of how you make this t'nai. And Rashi, right at the beginning here, points out that some of these options that the Gemara starts off with is obvious that it's not going to work. But nevertheless, the Gemara goes through the whole thing until it comes to the final conclusion what the T'nai is. Because if the Gemara would right away say how to make the T'nai, you wouldn't realize why any other option won't work. So the Gemara goes through a bunch of different options that will not work. And then it comes to the final conclusion of how you make this T'nai that it should work. So let's see. The Gemara starts off the first thing as follows. The T'nai that he tells her is, Hareza gitech al menashe tamusi. This will be a get in case you die, so then you'll be divorced. So you'll be divorced, and I have the first wife that I'm still married to. Right? If you're not going to die, then you won't be divorced, and you will be my wife. That's the t'nai that he makes with her. So the Gemara says that doesn't work. How does this t'nai help you? Maybe she's not going to die, and the first wife is also not going to die. And he's married to 2 wives. So this Tanai is not enough. Elo, so the Gemara tries a different Tanai. This will be your get if you don't die. So if you don't die and the first wife did not die, so then I don't want to have 2 wives. So if you don't die, so then this is your get. So I should only have 1 wife, the first wife. So Eloi Misa Migrishala, if the second wife does not die, so she's divorced. So you won't have 2 wives. Vi Misa, and if she does die, so then Hakai Mahach, you still have the first wife. So this kind of a t'nai should work. So the Gemara says right away, no, it does not work. V'dilme hiloi misa, but maybe she's not going to die. V'havile gita dahai gita, and then this get will take effect, right? If she does not die, the get takes effect. Umaisa chaverta, and the first wife will die. And if the first wife dies, so now he's left with nothing. V'kam lebelei bayis, so he doesn't have any wife. So this t'nai doesn't work either. So Ella, the Gemara tries a third option. The t'nai he tells her is almenas shatomus achas mikem, that you should be divorced in the event that one of you die, the first or the second wife. If one of you die, then you should be divorced. So seemingly this would be a t'nai that would work. Why? Miseha kaimahach. So if she dies and the get takes effect, so you have the first wife. Misahach, if the first wife dies, so then hakaimaha. So then you have this wife. So either way, you have one of them that's going to be here. But the Gemara says, no, this Tnai also doesn't work. If you're saying that the get only takes effect if one of them dies, so what's if none of them die? So then there's no get that takes effect. So then the first wife is still married to him, and the second wife is also still married to him, so you have Shnei Batim, he's married to two wives, so that doesn't work. Another question, if he makes a condition with her that your get should take effect if you die, is that going to be a good get? Rava said that this kind of a condition does not allow for the get b'chlal to take effect. An example Rava says is as follows. If a person tells his wife, I'm giving you a get on the following condition. You can't drink wine my entire lifetime and your entire lifetime. It's not a krisis, because if you include in your get a condition that will last her entire lifetime, what that means is that her entire lifetime she's still connected to him. She still has that condition she has to fulfill. That's not full krisis. Krisis means she has to be fully separated and detached from him. So a get that includes something that remains her entire lifetime is not a get. If he, however, says, Kol yemei chaye ploini, I divorce you, almanas, that you don't drink wine the entire lifetime of that individual, of any specific individual, then areza krisis. Then the get takes effect because it's possible that that person will die before her. So you're divorcing her in a way that she's not remaining connected to him forever. So then the get will take effect. So the question of the Gemara is over here when he says that I give you a get on the condition of that either you or the other woman dies, so because you're including in this condition also a manas that she will die, so you're including here in condition that lasts her entire lifetime. So the get doesn't take effect. This question is really also a question of one of the previous cases.
The first one will die, then she's divorced, so again
right.
He doesn't have a wife.
Oh, that's another good question. And the Gemara could have asked that question as well. So the Gemara goes to I think we're holding by the fourth option here. Ella, the Tnai will work as follows. The Amala, he tells her, Hareze gitech almanas shaloi Thomas chavertech. This will be a get if the first wife doesn't die. So then I don't need you to be my wife, then you should be divorced. So then this should work. Iloi misa chaverta. If the first wife doesn't die, migrisha. So the second wife is divorced. Vi misa ha. And if the first wife does die, so then the get does not take effect. Ha. So you have the second wife. So this is perfect. This seems to be the Tanai that you'll always have one wife. But the Gemara says, no, it still doesn't work. What happens if the first wife will die in middle of Yom Kippur, in middle of the Aveda? And then, now that the first one dies, what this now retroactively does is the gita daha lav gitahu, that the get of the first wife is not a get, because you told her if the first wife dies, then you're not divorced. And if so, what does that mean? Va'avid la'avayda b'shnei batim. So for the first half of the day, you did the avayda married to two wives, the first wife and the second wife, which we now know is not a get. So it's still a problem. You still have the avayda with two wives. So that's the whole difficulty over here. We have to find a scenario where you're only married to one wife and not two, and not zero. So that's the complicated thing over here. How do we make this tonight? Ella, the Gemara comes to another option, and this one makes absolutely no sense. It's very hard to understand why the Gemara even sticks it in there. Ella the Amar, he tells her, Areze giteich almanas shatomas chavertech. You should be divorced in the case that the first one dies. That would be the Tanai that would work. So the Gemara says, of course this doesn't work. If the first one dies and now the second one is divorced, so then he has no wife. That's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. So now the Gemara moves more closer to the final conclusion and says that you have to actually make a condition with both of the wives. So basically from all the scenarios that we tried here, we see to make a condition just with the second wife is not going to work. He has to now give both of his wives a get with a condition. Now, and the condition that he makes with both of the wives are not going to be the same. For one of them, the second one, he tells her, this will be a get in the event that your friend, that the first one does not die. So then I don't need you. So then you'll be divorced. So that Tanai is clear. Now, Olachada Amar Lo, and the other one, the first one, what does he tell her? Hareze Giteich, this should be your get, Al Menas Shaloi Tikonsi LeBeis HaKnesses. In the event that you don't walk into the shul. Then it should be a get for you. Now, what does this mean? We'll have to see the continuation of the Gemara to understand how we explain this. So let's see. The Gemara asks on this. This will also still not work. Even though you're making a Tanai with both wives, it's still a problem. Why? Vidilme, but maybe loy maise chaverte. So maybe she will not die. The first one will not die. So then if the first one doesn't die, so the second one will be divorced. And also, v'loy ailehi lebeis hakneses. And maybe the first one, you said that it should be a get if she does not walk into the shul, and maybe she will not walk into the shul. V'havi la gite de tarvayu gite. The condition that you made with both wives was fulfilled, and the get of both of them will take effect. V'kam lebelei bayis. So you end up being without any wife at all. So this tonight, the way we made it for both wives, still doesn't work. Elo, and here the Gemara comes to the final conclusion of how you make the Tanai. So the Tanai is as follows. L'chade, for the second wife, Amala, you'd say to her, like we said before, Hareze gitech, almenas shaloi tomes chavertech. You should be divorced if the first wife does not die. So then I don't need you. So then you should be divorced. L'chade Amala, and now for the first wife he tells her, Hareze gitech, this should be your get, almenas she'ek kones ani lebeis hakneses. If I will go into the shul, then you should be divorced. That's the t'nai that he makes with her. And the Gemara explains what the point of making the t'nai in this way is. So first of all, as far as the t'nai that he makes with the second wife, that if the first one doesn't die, so then she should be divorced. So so if the first one does die, so then the first one is still here. The second one, that is still here. The second one is only divorced if the first one does not die. So if the first one does die, so then the second one is not divorced, so you have that wife. And if the first one, if the second one, that is, if the second one dies, so then I have the first wife. So, now what are you going to argue and say? There's still a problem here, the problem that we brought up before. What happens if the first wife dies in the middle of the Aveda? So then it comes out that you ended up doing the Aveda and you were married to two wives, because now that the first wife died, it comes out that the Gedushin of the first wife did not take effect. So for the first half of the day, you did Aveda married to two wives. That was the problem, one of the problems we had before. So the Gemara says that's why you're making a condition with the first wife that she should be divorced if you go into a shul. So Ichazila, the Kabayel Meimas, when he sees that the first wife is not well and she's going to die, Kadim Iu Va'ayel Beis HaKnesses, so he goes and he runs into the shul, Umashvi Legita Daha Gita Lamafreya. And then what happens is the first wife becomes divorced from the beginning of Yom Kippur, and now the first one died, so the second wife, the get, did not take effect, and the get of the first wife did take effect. So you end up only with one wife every single time, every single moment of Yom Kippur, even if the first wife passes away in the middle of Yom Kippur, because you made a t'nai with her that there should be a get for her if she dies. If you go into shul, right, and that get takes effect l'mafreya, because you gave it to her before already. So the moment you walk into the shul, the get takes effect l'mafreya, so you're not married ever to two wives, you're never left without one wife. Oh, you always have it set up in a way that you always have one wife married to. That's the condition how it's done.
Where is our shul Yom Kippur?
Huh? Where does the Kohen have a shul Yom Kippur? Over there in the Beis HaMikdash, huh? I guess right over there in the Beis HaMikdash itself there's a shul, or right over there in the Har HaBayis. He goes into a shul. So given Shtiblach there near the Beis HaMikdash. Maske Flora Vasi. The what? You can make a t'nai with the Kedushin itself, maybe. Maske Flora Vasi Vitaimer Avavire. So they asked the following question on what we said over here. This is going back to the premise of the whole Inyan. So what did it say here? That you have to have a wife, because it says in the Torah, V'chipe ba'ade va'ad beisai. Right? And from beisai we learn out only one wife and not two wives. So the Gemara says, if that's the drasha you make here, let's apply this to the halacha of Yoma. Elamayata. If so, say the same thing by Yibum. Shtei Yevamis Habois Mibayis Echad. If you have two wives that were married to a person, right, what's the halacha of a Yevam? A person that passes away without children. So his brother has to marry his wife. How about if he was married to two wives, and now his brother would have to marry both of them? Is there still a halacha of Yibum? So you should say over here that there's no halacha of Yibum by Shtei Yevamis Habois Mibayis Echad Lo Yisyabu. There should be no Yibum. Because as Rashi here quotes and says, by Yevamah, the Torah also says the lashon of bias, singular term, one bias. So we should make the same drasha like we say b'negei Yom Kippur, beisai. So the Gemara answers yevim toy riba. There's a double lashon that the Torah writes yevim toy. That teaches me that even if there are two wives that are there, and this person passed away without children, there's still a halacha of yibum.
You can't be married to two wives in the same house. You have to have two separate houses.
No. Are you saying
So
no? But the beisai, I understand. But the beisai is just a title for the wife. It doesn't literally mean that she lives in the same house. It's a title that the isha is called a bias. Another question based on what we learned before. What did it say? What's the definition of beisai? Beisai, it's not a kiddushin, or what's also called edisin. The first stage of marriage is not enough. That's not called beisai. So if so, elamayata arusa loytusyabim. An arusa, there should be no halacha of yibum if a person was married to his wife only as an arusa, as kiddushin, without nisuin. Because by yibum it says the word beisai, and here by Yom Kippur we call beisai only if it's nesua, fully married to her. Answers the Gemara, ha-chutza, the word ha-chutza, l'rabis arusa. That comes to include that even an arusa, which is still outside his house, she's not fully married to him, but still the yibum applies to this. Tana Rabbana, now the Gemara brings another braisa on a different subject, but eventually the Gemara will connect it back to the theme that we're speaking about here. So Tana Rabbana, we learned in the braisa, Kohen Gadol makriv einon. A Kohen Gadol is allowed to bring karbanis even at the time that he's in einon, which is a time when a close relative passes away. On that day, before the kvura is in einon, he's allowed to bring the karbanis. Ve'ena eichel. However, he's not allowed to eat from kachim while he's in einon. Rabbi Yudah says, Kol hayom, all day. All day. Now, it's not clear what Rabbi Yudah meant to say when he said all day. All day what? My Kol hayom. What does this mean, all day? So Amar Rava says the pshat here is, Lo nitzracha ela la'aviyai mitoich beisa. What this means is that you bring the Kohen Gadol from his house, even when a close relative passed away. On that day, you bring him all day from his house that he should go and do the Aveda. So Rashi over here says that it's a mitzvah to have him do the Aveda the entire day, so he should forget about his pain of the Avelus and of the Aninos, so it's a mitzvah that he should go ahead and do the Aveda. So Rabbi Yehuda is actually being more lenient. Rabbi Yehuda is saying not only he could do the Aveda all day, but you should bring him to do the Aveda all day. Abaye disagrees with this pshat of Rava. Rabbi Yehuda afuki mafkinan lei. We find, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that an einon is taken out. Even in the middle of the Aveda, we take him out. So this is actually regarding a Kohen Hedyet. A Kohen Hedyet is not allowed to do the Aveda as an Einon. What happens if a Kohen, someone of close relative, passes away in the middle of doing the Aveda? Could he complete his Aveda, or does he have to stop right in the middle? Rav Yehuda holds he has to stop right in the middle. And the Gemara brings the Braisa, the Tanya, a Kohen Hedyet is bringing the Karbanis on the Mizbeach. Shama, Shemeis Lemeis. And he hears a close relative passed away. Maniach Avedasei v'yotzi. He has to immediately interrupt his Aveda and leave. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yosi says, Yigmair, he completes his Aveda and then he leaves. So what do we see over here? Who's more lenient about this? Rabbi Yosi is more lenient. Rabbi Yosi says an Einon could stay. Rabbi Yehuda is more stringent in this case of Kohen Hedyet, that he has to leave immediately. Now, so does it make sense to say that regarding a Kohen Gadol, Rabbi Yehuda should be the one that's more lenient and say that you should bring the Kohen Gadol to do the Aveda the entire day? Regarding a Kohen Hedyet, we see that Rabbi Yehuda is more stringent. And here regarding Kohen Gadol, Rabbi Yehuda is the one that's more lenient. Hello, Marave. So therefore Rava said a different shot. My Kol hayom, when Rabbi Yehuda said all day, it meant different. All day to say loima she'ena oived kol hayom, that actually Rabbi Yehuda is arguing and being more stringent. Rabbi Yehuda is saying that even the Kohen Gadol, even though minat Torah, he's allowed to do the Aveda, but no, mid Rabbanan there's excited that he should not do the Aveda the entire day. Why? Since Minatayr is not allowed to eat from the kachim, so he might come to eat from the kachim, and therefore he's not allowed to do the Aveda the entire day. So he shouldn't make a mistake to eat. But this is only by day. As Rashi says, by day is when the Isser of eating kachim applies Minatayr. But that night though, the following night, he's not an Einan Minatayr anymore. Midrabanan, you're still an Einan at night as well, but not Minatayr. So at night, if there's any extra pieces on the Mizbeach, to any more Aveda to do, the Kohen Gadol could do the Aveda at night. So Bekitza, the Gemara is explaining, Rabbi Yehuda is telling us a new Gzeirim with the Rabbanon here. Amalei Rav Ada bar Ava, so now comes back the connection to Yom Kippur, to our Mishnah. So Rav Ada bar Ava said, L'Rove, Umi Gazer Rabbi Yehuda Shem Yochel, is Rabbi Yehuda concerned that if a Kohen does the Aveda, he may come to eat as well from the Kachim? But we learned in our Mishnah Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, Rabbi Yehuda Oime, Afi Shacheres Maskinun Lo, you designate a second wife for the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur, Shemet Thomas Ishta. Maybe his first wife will die. V'i Maise Ishta, so the Gemara asks a question, but if his first wife is going to die, Aved Aveda, so he's an Einan. This is a close relative, right? His wife that dies, he's considered to be an Einan, and he's doing the Aveda on Yom Kippur, and V'loi Gaza Rabbi Yehuda, Shema Yochel. And Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned that because he's doing the Aveda on Yom Kippur, that he might come to eat as well. So our Mishnah is a case where the Kohen is being an Einan if his wife dies, and still he can go ahead and do the Aveda the entire day. So how can you say that according to Rabbi Yehuda there's a Gzeira that if you're an Einan you should not do the Aveda because you might come to eat? Amalei, so the Gemara answers, what kind of question is this? Hachi hashta, how could you compare? Hasam there in our Mishnah, Kivin the Yom Kippurim, since this is Yom Kippur, the Kula Alma Lekachli. Nobody eats on Yom Kippur, you have to fast on Yom Kippur. So who Nami Loyasil Mechal? He also, the Kohen Gadol, were not concerned that he might come to eat from the Kachim. Hacha, however, over here in this Braise and any other case where Kohen Gadol is doing the Aveda on any day, the Kula Alma Achli, everybody eats on a regular day. Hu Nami Yasil Mechal. So there we're concerned if you allow the Kohen Gadol to do the Aveda in the Beis Hamikdash, he might come to eat from the Kachim. The Gemara has another question on this. What was Rav Ada bar Ava's question, B'chal? What was bothering Rav Ada bar Ava? Rav Ada bar Ava says that he's an Einan. He becomes an Einan. But why is he an Einan? Over here, when his wife dies, would he be an Einan? Didn't we say, what do we do? When he sees his wife is about to die, he runs into a shul in order for the Gedushin to take effect. This is not even his wife anymore. It's not his wife that died. So the Gemara says, you're right. True, he's not an Einan because his wife was divorced. So he's not an Einan. But Atrudi milay mitrid. But isn't he very disturbed by the fact that this woman that was his wife until a moment ago died? Isn't he very disturbed by this? So if he's disturbed by it, it means he's very pained and he's not. He can't have simcha. And Rashi here brings, when you eat kachim, you have to eat kachim with simcha and gedula. Pasuk says, "L'cha nasatim l'mashcha." You have to eat from the kachim like a king that eats a meal. So a Kohen Gadol, that even though it's not his wife and he's not an Einan, but yet he's very disturbed by it and he can't eat the kachim. He's not supposed to eat the kachim with such an attitude. So therefore, there should still be, that Ada bar Ava's question was, there should still be a gzeira that we don't want him to eat the kachim in this state, and therefore we shouldn't allow him to do the Aveda on Yom Kippur. And for that, the Gemara answered before that we're not concerned because nobody eats on Yom Kippur, so we're not afraid that Kohen Gadol will come to eat.